This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/pettyrevenge. Our first story of today is, neighbor won't stay off my property, gets fenced out. A little background. My current place is a fairly new build, backs to some woods, and was empty for a bit before we moved in. My neighbor has a corner lot, also backs to woods, but is a bit odd shaped since the woods are considered protected green space. Because of this situation, they had used maybe a third of my backyard when they did outdoor activities, volleyball, badminton, etc. None of this bothered me because their kids are really nice and respectful. Fast forward a couple of years and I'm having the backyard renovated. Well, the neighbor apparently had an issue with this because he kept bothering the crew during construction. Telling them what they could and couldn't do, saying they were too loud or doing things wrong, and claiming that I had asked him to oversee the crew. Spoiler, I did not. Eventually the head contractor has had enough and complains to me about the micromanagement. I go talk to the neighbor and he's acting like he's doing me a huge favor by keeping them in line, but agrees to back off. And he does, for about 2 days. I get an alert on my ring on a day the crew is off and there was my neighbor on my patio, picking up, inspecting, and throwing down some pavers that had already been laid. I tell him to kindly get the beep off my property and he proceeds to flip me off and walk back to his place. Time for the petty revenge. When we first moved in, I had a whole house natural gas generator put in because power outages are common when thunderstorms roll through. Thing about those is, they're loud when they turn on, and since we were doing the renovation, I planned on putting a living fence in across from the generator to mute some of the sound that would travel to his place. Well, I talked to the head contractor and we happily agreed to shift the trees from the generator down to the woods and essentially cut off his property from my property. Neighbor was not happy about that move and called the city surveyor to dispute the property line. But my contractor had made sure that we were fully on my property with about 8 inches to spare to account for tree growth. End result, neighbor pissed, but powerless. I have some nice trees to look at in the backyard, and there is nothing to stop the symphony of my generator when it kicks on every week to do a status check. Our second story of today is, former mother-in-law used too much salt in her food. Asked her to tone it down, she refused. So I hid her salt shakers the next time we ate there. I have suffered from chronic migraines since I was a kid. Something important for every migraine sufferer to know are their triggers. Triggers are the things in your life that are most likely to start a migraine. For some it may be extreme heat, for others it's stress, and for me it's salt. I can't have a lot, and if I do, a migraine will start almost right away. Due to this I can only have Chinese food every once in a while, and I have to be very careful to read labels for sodium content. Migraines hurt like a beep but can also send me to the emergency response, which is expensive. My ex-mother-in-law, I'll call her Karen, loved to cook and added too much salt to everything. It didn't take me long to notice that right after eating a meal prepared by her my head would start beating like a drum. We had dinner with them every Sunday, so my ex went to Karen, explained my situation and asked her to tone down the salt. Karen was not happy. She thought changing the ingredients of her food would alter the taste too much. She agreed to cut back, but the very next time we had dinner with them I went home feeling like my head was going to explode, and I knew she hadn't. My wife asked her about it later and Karen said she'd originally cut the salt but after tasting it decided it wasn't flavorful enough and added it back in. She told my wife she wouldn't sacrifice flavor for me, so that's the last time we had Sunday dinner there. Months later, we had to go there for a birthday party. We arrived early, hours from dinner, so Karen hadn't yet started cooking. I was in the kitchen getting a beverage and saw her precious salt shaker sitting on the counter. I picked it up, went into the pantry and hid it behind some boxes of cereal. While there I saw the round refill container, grabbed that and hid it too. Hours later Karen is cooking and we hear a commotion. She's upset she can't find her salt shaker. She goes into the pantry, complaining that she also can't find the large container either. My wife and I were sitting outside, acting like nothing was out of the ordinary. She ended up cooking all the dishes without salt and beeped the whole time about how terrible everything tasted. Karen was in a very bad mood as everyone dished up. It wasn't long before they started complimenting her on the food. People were saying it was some of the best she'd ever made, and from her face you could see she was shocked to hear that. Several people said to her, "This is great. Did you tone down the salt? You use a lot, you know. This tastes like you used the perfect amount," to which Karen hissed, "It has no salt because I can't find my shakers." Nobody else was bothered by this, they just nodded and agreed it was amazing. The more they complimented her, the more upset she got. For some reason, she never thought to ask anyone if they had purposely taken them. We ate and then got up to leave not long afterward. On our way out, we went by the kitchen to take some leftovers home. While there I pulled the salt shaker and container out, put them in our bag, took them home and trashed them. It was the first time I had eaten a meal with that family and not gone home with a migraine. Our last story of today is, Teacher Wouldn't Let Me Use the Restroom, I Got Her Suspended. The title explains it. To preface, I have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. This qualifies me as disabled, and so starting when I first got sick in high school, I was required accommodations by state law. Being disabled was hard and pretty complicated, since after being diagnosed with IBD, I started getting various other health issues ranging from kidney issues to neurological issues to fibromyalgia. My school was very reasonable, and even after missing 3 months when I was first diagnosed, I still got all of my credits. The following year I was doing alright. Then second semester, one of my teachers left and the new one was a complete monster. She refused to teach with the textbook and used Wikipedia instead. Wouldn't give us any tests or practice for the AP exam we were due to take. I was very frustrated and felt unprepared. She absolutely loathed me since I had a little pink pass that allowed me to take my meds in class, go to the nurse as needed, and have unlimited restroom breaks. She thought I was a disruption. I would do my best to wait until she was done talking unless I was in too much pain, but she would always roll her eyes and groan at me. One day I had just gotten in from a doctor's appointment and rushed into her class. I asked to go to the restroom and said I'd be right back. She said no. Well, asking is just a formality. All of the teachers get emails about the disabled students and know about their accommodations. So I told her, I need to go to the restroom, I'm going. As I left, she groaned something about me always wasting class time and faking it. I picked up my stuff and took it with me. I went to the restroom. Then I went downstairs to my dean's office. I signed in, and when he came out to get me I told him about her attitude and how she refused to let me use my accommodation, so I came here. I simply told him that they should let her know that she's required to let me leave the class for a reason, and I have medical paperwork to back that up. He apologized profusely and called the teacher. He told her that he was sending a substitute to her room and he wanted to speak with her. Then he called for a substitute teacher on his walkie-talkie. She arrived at his office looking very displeased, to say the least. He sent me out of the room and I waited in the lobby for I think 20 minutes. Once she left, he had her stop at the desk to fill out some paperwork. He brought me back into the office to fill out paperwork too about what had happened. A few other students, who heard what had happened, came in as witnesses, and after that she was gone for 3 weeks. To my knowledge, she was suspended because she opened them up to a potential lawsuit. Blatantly denying a disabled student their accommodations is against the law here, and the school didn't tolerate it one bit. I will admit I do feel a little bad, but I don't take any beep when it comes to my body and my diseases. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.